there is an awakening taking place all across America as people recognize that we can no longer afford such cynicism, that it's time for us to step up and meet these challenges and create the kind of politics that's not based on division, it's not based on hatred, it's not based on fear, but is based on hope. And that is the kind of politics that we expect to create in this election. A politics that's based on all of us coming together instead of being driven apart. If we change our politics, then we will change the nation. You know, after I made the announcement, some people said, you know, Obama, he's got some talent. He could go places, but he doesn't have enough experience. That's what they said. And I had to point out, listen, I've got some experiences that I think are very relevant to helping to shape our future. I know that my experience as a community organizer tell me that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they're given an opportunity. My experiences as a civil rights attorney tells me that fairness and justice have to be fought for each and every day, that they don't come on their own. I explained that my experiences as a state legislator helping to make sure that we've got videotaping of interrogations and confessions so you don't have innocent people on death row, or creating health care for children who don't have it, or instituting the first racial profiling legislation, or instituting ethics reforms in the face of resistance from both Democrats and Republicans. That has taught me that if you focus on the public interest instead of your narrow political interests, if you're willing to listen and you understand that politics involves compromise as long as you're not compromising your principles, that I've learned that you can actually get something done through government, that government can be a noble calling. And I've told them I've got a lot of experience as a U.S. Senator working with people like Dick Lugar on ending the proliferation of weapons that are responsible for deaths all around the world, and making sure that we've got the toughest ethics reform legislation in Washington since Watergate. So I've got some experience, but what I understand, I guess what you're saying is that I don't have enough Washington experience. And what I tell people when they tell me that is, what I tell them is, it's true I haven't been in Washington that long, but I've been in Washington long enough to know that Washington needs to change. And that's the reason that I'm running for president. I tell them that. And if we change our politics, then we can solve the problems that people say are insoluble. Don't believe that we can't do something about the challenges that we face. We know what to do with health care. We know that if we invest more money in prevention so that little boys and little girls are getting regular checkups, then they're not going to end up in the emergency room for treatable illnesses like asthma, and we'll save money. And we'll be better off. That if we work with people who've got chronic diseases, 20% of the patients account for 80% of the costs. And if we deal with folks who've got diabetes and other treatable illnesses, then in fact we'll save money. We know that we can apply medical technology and electronic billing and medical records to reduce errors, and we can apply all these savings and make sure that every single American has basic health care. In fact, I want to be held accountable for that. We can have universal health care by the end of the next president's first term. We can have universal health care by the end of my first term in office. We can do that. Don't let them tell us we can't do that. We know what to do. We know how to fix our education system. That if we put money into early childhood education, then every child will actually be prepared. instead of passing a bill called No Child Left Behind that left the money behind. Let's invest in our teachers and make sure they're paid a decent wage and give them the flexibility that they need, and measure progress instead of some abstract notions that somebody cooked up in Washington. Listen to teachers, listen to the folks on the ground to figure out what works to make sure that every child has opportunity. We know what to do. We know what to do in terms of bringing economic development not just to some parts of the country, but every part of the country. We can invest in broadband lines in urban areas and rural areas so that they can tap into the digital economy. We can make sure that unions have a fair shot to organize so that they end up spreading the wealth of our economy. Everybody benefits. Business and workers benefit when everybody is getting a decent wage and decent benefits. We know what to do. We know what to do with energy. That if we set up a system like California has boldly decided it's going to set up, so that we are capping the emission of greenhouse gases, that it can actually generate jobs and industry, there's no reason why we can't create entire new sectors of the economy around flexible fuel and vehicles and alternatives and solar and wind. We can harness nature to make sure that we are leaving behind a planet that is prosperous and environmentally sound. And most of all, but here's the thing. Even though we know what to do, it is my assertion that it's going to be very difficult to do any of these things until we finally bring an end to this war in Iraq. We can't send $100 billion overseas every year and expect to solve the problems here at home. I am proud of the fact that I opposed this war from the start, that I stood up in 2002 and said this is a bad idea, that this is going to cost us billions of dollars and thousands of lives, and we don't have a strategy for getting out. I'm proud of that, but I am also proud of the fact that I now have a bill in right now that already got 50 sponsors over in the House and already has sponsors, including Republicans, that says that we have to begin withdrawing our troops on May 1st of this year and have our combat troops out by March 31st of next year. We can do that. We can do it in a responsible way. I'm somebody who believes that we've got to be as careful getting out as we were careless getting in. That we've got to ensure that our troops are safe as we're phasing down our involvement there, that we want to make sure that they've got the armor that they need and the protection that they need. We don't want to put them in danger. We want to give Iraqi government a chance to stand up. They've had a number of years now to do it, but we've got to send a signal to them. America is not going to be there forever. It is time for our young men and women to come home. We've got business to do elsewhere. We've got business to do in Afghanistan. We've got to finish the job there. We've got business to do right back here at home. We've got to invest in roads and bridges and hospitals right here in America. We've got to tell them we want to be your partners, but we can't continue this occupation. And even as we do that, let me tell you, for all the mistakes that have been made, for all the obstinance of this administration, for all the bad planning, for all the problems, not just in execution, but in conception of this war, we still have an opportunity to get at least one thing right, and that is make sure that when they come home, that we treat them right. That when they come home, they don't have mold on the walls and rats scurrying under their beds. When they come home, that we're giving them the counseling and the treatment that they need to make the transition back into civilian life. That when they come home, they don't end up homeless because nobody's looking after them. That when they come home, they're not going through dumpsters looking for food because they've been forgotten. Don't stand next to a flag and say you believe in supporting the troops Well, you forget him when you come home. We can do better than that. That's not who America is.